How well do you know the city that you live in? I received some wise counsel right after I had moved to a new state to accept my very first job out of college, and a supervisor said to me, "Greg, grow where you're planted." I didn't really understand that at first, but I've thought a lot about those comments through the years, and I wanted to introduce you in today's video to the city where we have planted ourselves for the past 25 years. We're going to start with a little bit of history. In the western part of the United States and the northern part of Utah is the little town of Pleasant Grove. So, Pleasant Grove sits right at the base of Mount Timotaugus, a beautiful 12,000-foot mountain, and there are two canyons, Grove Creek Canyon and Battle Creek Canyon, where the history of Pleasant Grove plays out. And everything got started in a grove of beautiful cottonwood trees right at the base of Battle Creek Canyon. In 1849, Little Chief was the leader of the Timotaugus Indians that occupied Utah Valley. Mormon pioneers had come into the area and had settled in the valley to the north, which we know as the Salt Lake Valley. Well, in 1849, a number of cattle and horses began to disappear, and Brigham Young sent a militia of 50 men down into Utah Valley to talk with Little Chief. Little Chief had been friendly, but he had some rebellious Indians within his own tribe. One was called Roman Nose. He had a brother named Blue Shirt, and two other brothers were banished from the tribe because of stealing from the settlers. Little Chief didn't want problems. So the militia entered into the valley on March the 1st and talked with Little Chief. Gave the militia two of his own sons to lead an expedition to find this group that had been taking the cattle. 4 days later, on March the 5th, 1849, they located their camp, which was right along this little stream right behind me, which now bears the name of Battle Creek. In the pre-dawn hours, they surrounded the Indian camp. The two Indian guides spoke to the other Indians, telling them, "Listen, give yourselves up, surrender on this thing," and they refused to. The Indians here began to shoot their rifles and arrows. The militia opened fire. 4 Indians were killed. The women and the children, being afraid, scampered off into the creek and hid in the bushes alongside the creek and just waited. Finally, they were flushed out. The men took the women and children back to Salt Lake, where they were cared for. Here's the monument commemorating that event, and it reads, "This monument is in memory of the first armed engagement between the Mormon pioneers and the Native Americans that inhabited Utah Valley, and serves as a reminder of the extreme sacrifice given by both people. This skirmish at the mouth of Battle Creek Canyon gave it its name." On July 19, 1850, Brigham Young sent William Adams, John Mercer, and Philo T. Farnsworth to locate suitable places for settlement. Interestingly enough, Philo's grandson invented the television. They were attracted by a beautiful grove of cottonwood trees in a clear stream. This grove was like an oasis on the dry, sage-covered plains and foothills, and made a most inviting spot for travelers. They referred to this place as a pleasant grove of trees. On September 13, 1850, the first settlers arrived, and they were mostly newly married couples from the British Isles and Scandinavia. They were young, spirited, and industrious. They decided to build their homes together near the grove and stake out their farms to the north and south because of the ease of bringing irrigation water from Grove Creek and Battle Creek. They created the South Field and the North Field farms. They named their settlement Battle Creek after the Indian battle. In May 1854, the Utah County Court ordered the name to be changed to Pleasant Grove. a term used by George S. Clark in a letter to Brigham Young describing the cottonwood groves. They found the area perfect for growing apples, peaches, cherries, apricots, pears, and plums. Alfalfa, wheat, corn, oats, sugar beets, tomatoes, peas, grapes, raspberries, and strawberries all flourished. In fact, Strawberry Days was created as a town celebration on June 21, 1922, and is the longest community celebration in Utah. There are three different log cabin structures that were moved here. This granary behind me was originally a dugout which belonged to Jeppa and Anna Nilsson. Had it right next to the road, and a fellow Scandinavian said, "Jeppa, you've got this too close to the road." And he said, "I have filled it with grain in case anybody needs access to it. They can take it without embarrassment. It belongs to them." There are good people around. The Orlando Heron home is believed to be the first cabin built in Pleasant Grove around 1850. The softstone was quarried from a local spot and it was relatively easy to cut. You notice the interesting corner joints on this cabin. It's a one-room cabin, probably 10 by 10. There's the front door. It's locked right now, but you can peer in through the window and see a table, and there's a bed, a little cooking stove. Boy, can you imagine living in that little tiny house? That's the original tiny home. This third cabin was built by the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers, and it's twice as large as usual, but it was just built to house artifacts. The old Bell School was built in three stages, 1852, 1880, and 1888. It originally served as a school, a church, a public meeting house. It later became the local high school and then library. Today it is a museum with thousands of relics from the days of the early pioneers. Something common to a lot of towns along the Wasatch Front is to place the letter of the community on the side of a mountain. In 1929, nearly 100 senior boys from the newly constructed Pleasant Grove High School built the G. They wanted to express pride in their school and community. It stands 112 feet high by 100 feet wide. A unique aspect of Pleasant Grove's history is that a Civil War skirmish was fought here. Not all federal troops fought the Confederates during the Civil War. Some were posted in the West to protect Union interests. Battles and skirmishes in the West were considered part of the Civil War. Colonel Patrick Connor of the 3rd Regiment of the California Volunteer Infantry was sent to Utah in 1862 to protect mail routes, telegraph lines, travelers, and to keep an eye on the Mormons. They established Camp Douglas, now Fort Douglas, in Salt Lake City. Interestingly enough, my father-in-law is the retired 2-star general out of Fort Douglas. In 1863, Indians began attacking the overland stage route. In April, as events escalated, troops were sent to find the hostile Indians. A squad of gunners with a howitzer under Lieutenant Honeyman was dispatched from Camp Douglas. They reached Pleasant Grove April 11th, 1863. The next morning on the 12th, Ute Indians used the walls of the Pleasant Grove fort to sneak up on the soldiers and attack them. The gunners took refuge in John and Sarah Green's home, just outside the fort. The family was allowed to leave, but soon realized that the baby was still in the home. Because the family had been on good terms with the Utes, they stopped firing to allow Mrs. Green to retrieve the baby. During the fighting, the gunners fired the howitzer, only to kill mules and damage property. The skirmish ended at 8 p.m. when the Utes left, stealing the remaining mules. No soldiers were killed. It is unknown if any Utes died. Estimated damage to the home was $1,000. So there's a little look into the past here in Pleasant Grove. It's a beautiful town to live in. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.